There's nothing you can do that can't be done. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. There's nothing you can know that isn't known. Nothing you can see that isn't shown. There's nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. It's easy. All you need is love. Love is all you need. Hold on. You also need more than circumstantial evidence. You need hard, actual proof. You need proof, yeah. Quit that. We've got a lot to review, detectives. Let's solve the Afterparty, Season 2, Episode 10, Vivian and Zoe. We broke down each episode for clues, suspects, and red herrings on the hunt to learn who killed Edgar the groom, and Roxana, the innocent lizard. Spoilers for both seasons of the Afterparty. If you haven't watched the first and second season of the Afterparty, pause this video, pour yourself a glass of some top-shelf hooch, and then continue this video. Use the timestamps below to jump to the topic or suspect that you want to hear, and skip past the stuff you don't want to hear about. In this video, we're going to be celebrating what we got right about that evil killer, and what we got wrong. Not too much. We'll hold up the Afterparty's mystery to Ronald Knox's famed 10 Commandments of detective fiction. We'll talk about what we'd like to see in the Afterparty Season 3. I'll tell you some hopefully amusing, maybe they're just anecdotes. Years ago, people used to mistake me for actor Zach Woods. We'll talk about the next couple of Let's Solve videos we'll be doing, and we'll celebrate the best of your feedback. It's time to celebrate what we got right. If you watch our video on Episode 8, Fang of Season 2, at the end of that video, we really did point out the killer, how it was done, the killer's motive, etc. We didn't catch every clue, which is a shame, and we'll be reviewing those later on in this podcast, but we pretty much got everything there was to get. I can't speak to you, but quick spoiler about Rian Johnson's Glass Onion. If you're like me, as soon as somebody bumped into somebody else in Glass Onion, I was paying attention to the switcheroo, and there were 3 more bumps, and you could tell, okay, this bump is the one where there was the switcheroo. And then, because I knew that person had done the gun switcheroo, I was paying attention to them and noticed the glass switcheroo. And you just needed to have your eyes open. Spoilers for Glass Onion are over. If you're an eagle-eyed viewer, you didn't need all these videos I made. You would have caught Fang switching glasses. It was obvious. You guys caught the switch. You knew it. Figuring out the killer after seeing the switch is kind of easy. Now, figuring out the killer and enjoying the solution to the mystery, those are 2 different things. I got this feedback from Carlin, who just said, disappointed. Now, I can't speak for Carlin, but sometimes part of the disappointment that comes with solving a murder mystery is the fact that we want the magic trick to work. We go to magic shows to see the magic work, not to suddenly spot, oh, this is how it happened. So maybe you're disappointed because we did spot it. We were able to figure it out. I actually enjoyed the mystery of Season 2 an awful lot. I enjoyed the solution. There are a few small caveats, which I'll cover right now. These are all just personal preferences of the 2 seasons of the Afterparty. For me, the 8-episode length of Season 1 was perfect. It really did feel to me that 10 episodes in Season 2 felt like it was stretching it just a bit. The second caveat to my full enjoyment is I mentioned in a previous video that Dame Agatha Christie, she would have the killer accidentally kill somebody. There would be accidental murder victims in her novels. But, of course, in the novel, later on in the novel, she'd have the killer kill his intended victim. So you were never left with a mystery that was nothing but an accidental murder. And that's what Season 2 of the Afterparty is, an accidental murder. So it's just not quite as fun. Minor quibble. And this is, these are minor. I did love this season. Now, in the first season, it was possibly too easy to spot the killer too early. And so, if you were a viewer and you figured out the killer in Season 1, you spent several weeks, several episodes waiting for the show to reveal what you already knew. This person killed Xavier. For Season 2, it really feels like it's the exact opposite, and we got all the important clues way too late. The Ulysses-focused episode was Episode 7, and Fang, which gave the final most important clues, was Episode 8. And once we realized the solution in Episode 8, it really felt like we had spent 6 episodes of red herrings. That's not fun. I wish they could have rearranged the season. So maybe the Ulysses-focused episode could have been moved up to like episode 3 or 4. Then you leave Fang at episode 8, so there's more doubt. Instead, it felt like 6 episodes of red herrings, and then finally, okay, here's the answer back to back in 2 episodes. But again, these are minor quibbles. I loved it. I thought it was fair play. I think this is almost as perfect as season 1's mystery. And again, let's talk about the great humor in this final episode. Is anybody else upset that they wasted 2 great genres, the campy horror film and the campy soap opera? They wasted them both in this episode. Both of those moments were hilarious. We need full episodes of campy horror and of corny soap opera. Brilliant. What do you think? If you're on YouTube, go down in the comments and let me know. Social media, reach out to us at PHQ. Ronald Knox was a mystery writer back in the 1920s. This is when whodunits and detective fiction and murder mysteries, they just were all the rage in between the 2 wars. This is when those legends such as Agatha Christie and Dorothy Sayers were writing their famous novels. Ronald Knox, he was an author. He was a member of this infamous club, the Detection Club of mystery writers. And he decided to put together his 10 commandments of, hey, this is how you do it. His first commandment was the criminal must be someone mentioned in the early part of the story, but it must not be anyone whose thoughts the reader has been allowed to follow, aka the narrator. Now, no, many mystery writers would break this rule all the time, but that's certainly not something the AfterParty did, ever. In Characters' Mind movies, they're always presented as possible truth or possible fiction. We did meet the criminal early in the story in episode 1. We met all the suspects in episode 1, so I think it passes this commandment. Number 2, all supernatural or preternatural agencies are ruled out as a matter of course. No, Edgar and Roxana weren't killed via supernatural means, fine. Number 3, not more than 1 secret room or passage is allowable. This is a great house to have a secret room or passage, but it wasn't in season 2. Number 4, no undiscovered poisons may be used, nor any appliance which will need a long scientific explanation at the end. I assume Devil's Trumpet is a real poison. It was easy to explain, and it didn't have to be explained at the end. Number 4, I think we're safe. What do you think? This might be one that you could question. Now, rule number 5, I'll say it, but we've got to have some context. Rule number 5 was no Chinaman must figure in the story. Now, I know you're thinking, cancel Ronald Knox, this is terrible. As history has a way of doing, Ronald Knox was trying to say, don't be prejudiced and racist in your stories. And there was a bit of ugliness in the 1920s where they would imply these Eastern characters didn't have the morals of maybe a Western citizen might. They also would almost say a Fu Manchu type figure who would know mystical Eastern poisons would commit the murder, or maybe Eastern magic. And so Knox was trying to say, hey, these authors who are doing this are terrible, stop doing it. Of course, he ended up using language that 100 years later makes his rule feel a bit disgusting. If it's okay, let's go ahead and move on from rule number 5. Rule number 6, no accident must ever help the detective, nor must he ever have an unaccountable intuition which proves to be right. Now, that really seems a lot like Sherlock Holmes, who seemingly did this all the time with his unaccountable intuition. I don't think there was an accident which helped Danner, Anik, or Zoe in this story. Do you? I don't think they had unaccountable intuition. What do you guys think? I think it does pass this rule as well. Number 7, the detective must not commit the crime. Again, many times these rules have been broken to smart effect. And of course, some authors from the 1920s, back in the classic golden age of detective fiction, they broke this rule all the time, but obviously Danner and Anik did not do it, so I think it passes rule 7. Rule number 8, the detective must not light on any clues which are not instantly produced for the inspection of the reader. AKA the detective can't find a clue and then not share it with the reader, or in this case, the viewer, and be like, oh yeah, by the way, I did find this. What do you guys think? I think it passes this rule, but again, people can see these things differently. I think the detectives had all the clues they needed. Rule number 9, the stupid friend of the detective, the Watson. Is Anik our Watson? Is Zoe our Watson? Are we, the audience, the Watson in this case, the stupid friend of the detective? They must not conceal any thoughts which pass through their minds. Their intelligence must be slightly, but not very slightly below that of the average reader. You've watched my videos. My intelligence must be very far below the average reader, but that's fine. Number 10 and the final one. A twin brother or a double generally must not appear unless the readers, or the viewers in this case, have been duly prepared for them. Thank goodness Edgar didn't have a twin brother. Do you guys like these rules? Do you hate these rules? Are these something old and musty from the 1920s? Or do you believe they still apply if you want to do a fair play murder mystery? I love the After Party. I think it's always been fair play. Thumbs up from me. Okay, let's have our plate of crow and talk about what we got wrong. In the video following episode 3, I talked about the happy ending theory, and I said no one in Zoe's family could be the killer because it would break the happy ending. Admittedly, by the end, I was like, well, the showrunners had a brilliant plan to fix the happy ending problem, and they did. But back in episode 3, I didn't see it, so points to them. Another thing, which is a really smart clue, is the whiskey glass clue. Grace didn't drink whiskey, she was drinking out of a different glass, so therefore Ulysses' story was bunk. Oh, so brilliant. I do believe we could have deduced that Colonel bouncing on the trampoline was the bounding hound of hell. We really didn't think of it as a mystery to solve, but the show's solution to that, brilliant. The final thing we didn't get, and according to Christopher Miller, nobody got, is Edgar Minnow's name itself is an anagram. Wrong man dies. Edgar Minnow's wrong man dies. So smart, nobody caught it. Before I move to the next section, there are a couple of questions I have. Did we ever get an answer to? Did we ever learn why Edgar went to find Ulysses? Why did Edgar want Vivian to tell Grace about the affair? Huh? Why did he care? If the show gave us the answer, go down in the comments and let me know. But to me, that's a pretty large unanswered question. What other unanswered questions do you have about season 2? Skip ahead if you don't want to hear any silly stories that pertain to me. I'm not important, but I just thought it'd be funny to go ahead and tell them. Back in 2009, I think that's the first time I saw Zach Woods. He had a part in a movie that I saw in the theater in the loop. And I do remember looking at him and thinking, gosh, how did this nobody get this good part in this movie? Now, I did watch the movie and I didn't suddenly think, boy, that guy really looks a lot like me. Now, skip ahead a year, and I had some friends reach out to me who I hadn't talked to in a while, and they were all like, hey, I just saw you on last night's Office. That's so fun. And I was like, I'm not on The Office. Who did they think I was? I turned on the TV, looked at a rerun of The Office. Everybody thought I was Zach Woods. And this went on for probably a good 8 or 9 years. I lived in Los Angeles. I would notice at bars, people would come up and think, hey, I was Zach Woods. Hopefully this poor guy, Zach Woods, didn't have people come up to him and say, hey, how you doing? Probably the most comical instance of this is back on April Fool's Day, April 1st of 2016. I had a friend in town, and so we went out to a bar. I took her out to the Ace Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, which has this real hip bar on the roof of the hotel. The hotel also has this big theater there, and the theater was hosting this event called Literary Deathmatch, which Zach Woods was on stage competing in. After hanging out on the roof for an hour or so, my friend and I came down the elevator and were in the lobby and bar of the Ace Hotel lobby. And this person came up to me and she was like, oh man, I voted for you tonight. You were so good. You should have won. It had been happening so much, I knew she thought I was Zach Woods. What was comical is her friend kept saying, no, that's not him. That's not Zach Woods. But she really did believe I was Zach Woods. Of course, after the pandemic of 2020, like a lot of people, I decided to stay in and I put on 19 pounds, the COVID-19 pounds, as I like to say. And so nobody confuses me with Zach Woods anymore. You could tell from these photos I'm putting up in the video, it wasn't like we were identical twins, but for whatever reason, people did think he and I were one person. So we are currently still doing Let's Solve Only Murders in the Building, a video on season 3 of that Hulu comedy show. So what is next in our Let's Solve series? 1 week from now, the new Hercule Poirot movie, A Haunting in Venice, is going to open in theaters worldwide. Now, I know whodunit fans are saying, wait a minute, dude. A Haunting in Venice is based on Agatha Christie's novel Halloween Party. So how could you do a Let's Solve video when anybody could go on Wikipedia right now and find out who the killer of Halloween Party is? The one thing I'll say is this movie, A Haunting in Venice, it appears to not exactly be the most faithful of literary adaptations. For number one, Halloween Party does not take place in Venice, Italy, so you got that. But also you can tell if you've read that book and if you look at the trailers and stuff, this may not be so faithful as to have the same killers or clues from the novel. Some Agatha Christie scholars might say, well, that's for the best. Halloween Party is not considered top-tier Agatha Christie. Now, personally, I read it very young, like 12 maybe. I might have been 12 when I read it. And I personally think there are some brilliant clues and brilliant twists in the novel Halloween Party, and a few that didn't work. So if the movie's not going to be too faithful, I could see a way where the movie could change the motives and the actual killer from what it is in the novel. So, hey, I'm going to go see it. If I have some free time in all these podcasts I'm putting out, maybe I'll put out a video after I see the film next week. But that said, currently, after Only Murders in the Building Season 3 wraps up, the most likely next TV series we're going to do in the Let's Solve video series we do here at Double P Media, it's going to be a show called A Murder at the End of the World. It's an upcoming television series, limited series, so it's not supposed to have like season 1 and season 2. It's going to be on FX and the streaming service Hulu here in the United States, probably on Disney Plus and Star Plus around the world. It's going to premiere on November 14th of 2023. Here's the description for A Murder at the End of the World. I'm not 100% willing to commit to it, but it does sound intriguing. What do you guys think? It's described as a mystery series with a new kind of detective at the helm. A Gen Z amateur sleuth and tech-savvy hacker named Darby Hart. It's played by Emma Corrin, who you might have seen in some seasons of The Crown on Netflix. Darby and 8 other guests are invited by a reclusive billionaire, Clive Owen, to participate in a retreat at a remote and dazzling location. And then there were none vibes, huh? When one of the guests is found dead, Darby must use all her skills to prove it was murder against a tide of competing interests before the killer takes another life. So that's my thought of what'll be next, but hey, I love listening to you. Do you guys have ideas or shows that you want us to do in a Let's Solve Murder Mystery puzzle video? Certainly reach out to us and let us know. What would we like to see in the AfterParty Season 3? The writers have hinted they're already started on the AfterParty Season 3. If you look where the story is going, Zoe and Anik are engaged, but it seems unlikely we'd want to be at another wedding and wedding after-party after we just went through Edgar and Grace's wedding. That said, if Anik and Zoe had a party, you could bring back some of their high school friends who appeared in the AfterParty Season 1, as well as all of Zoe's family members could come back and reappear from Season 2. Pull them together, we have so many of the characters back we would love to see. There is one other idea that is kind of percolating in my mind when I consider what you should do for the AfterParty Season 3, and that's maybe it's time to flip the script. Maybe it's time for Danner to go to an after-party where there's a killing, and then Anik and Zoe get called in to help her. What do you guys think? What do you want to see in the AfterParty Season 3? Let's take a quick look at some of the best feedback we got. I mentioned that those first 5-6 episodes could feel like filler, but somebody in episode 6, at least in the YouTube comments, a couple of people did start focusing on Ulysses. A user with the handle Conan1996 did ask the question, in Travis's version, Grace screams and we see a person running away and we hear some pistachio cracks. When all the characters are at the door, we see Ulysses slightly pressing his shoe on the carpet, indicating he's trying to get pistachio off the bottom of his foot. I'm looking forward to hearing his explanation or version of that, not gonna lie. Great work, Conan. Nicole was very suspicious about Ulysses' shower on episode 1, but she didn't write this feedback until episode 6. She said Ulysses' hair is dry, he's not having a shower, the room is filled with steam. Is this a clue? Nicole wrote. Brilliant. Also in the feedback to episode 6, somebody with the Bats Maroob tube, boy, I hope I pronounced that right. They were wrong, saying, I think Ulysses had a fling with Isabel. That's why Isabel wants Grace to wear the hairpin. Wouldn't it be fun if Grace and Edgar are both Ulysses' kids? Okay, man, people, in episode 6, that's when some of the people started focusing on Ulysses. Now, a super member of the Clue Crew, Alex, was always very detailed in writing up things, and he wrote up some great reasons of why Ulysses was the killer there after episodes 7 and 8. And Alex had some great points. He believed Ulysses overinflated the relationship with Vivian and her affections. Ulysses sees himself as the hero, the man who deserves to win the love he lost. And I don't think Ulysses considers how Vivian feels or would feel. And Alex also makes a special note about how Fang said it was never about Edgar, it was always about Vivian. That Alex caught, and we saw in episode 10. That was a big clue for Anik to solve the mystery. Hey, did you get it wrong? Really, until episode 7 and 8, I thought it was Hannah. Go down in the comments and let us know what you think. With the writer's strike, we may not have a season 3 of the After Party for quite a while. Again, join us on the next one. If you're free, hey, jump over to Hulu, Disney Plus, start watching season 3 of Only Murders in the Building. Clue Crew, we're going to need your help to solve the next murder mystery.